Book 1, Chapter 14. It's 2005 and the same day that a younger man approached Benjamin via the canal's towpath. Both men are now aboard the floating home. Internally, Captain Hopes has the look and feel of an English gentleman's club, comprising red leather wingback chairs, Chesterfields, dark mahogany tables, and here, in the kitchen area, an assortment of ancient-looking cooking implements, including a familiar spatula and a once silver kettle, that Benjamin is using to make his guest Chinese-style tea. The host pours the steaming water into Japanese calligraphy-covered cups and turns his head owl-like through close to 180 degrees. "You haven't told me your name. A host should always call his guest by something, even if it's not." The young man paces up and down, turning every few seconds as he runs out of room. His leather-soled shoes tap rhythmically like restless fingers against the hard-polished wood boards. Far from slowing down, if anything, he's getting faster. Seemingly oblivious to Benjamin's statement come request, and with his line of sight fixed firmly on the tip of each shoe, he begins to speak in a tempo that mirrors his steps. "This place is..." He stops walking, then recommences. "It feels safe. Needed that. Was going to... Well, before I saw the card, that is." Shaking his head, he comes to a halt again. "Doesn't matter. Ejected that line of thought. No good to man or..." "It's not." The guest spins around. "What did you say?" "Be careful. It's hot. You may want to wait a moment. No milk so close to boiling. Excuse the lack of handles." Benjamin's outstretched offering remains unaccepted until his guest finally looks up towards the steaming tea. "Cheers, mate. I mean, thank you. You asked me my name." Benjamin smiles and raises an eyebrow. "Ah, I simply mentioned that it must have escaped you to..." "Well, actually, it's not that simple." "My dear friend, in my experience, things rarely are." Benjamin sips on his tea. "Good. Excellent. In that case, I hope you don't mind if I give you a number instead of a name. That's almost become more normal to me than... For now, can you just refer to me as 27? "Certainly. Well, 26 would never do." Benjamin produces his pocket watch again and, flipping the case open, pulls his silk handkerchief from his top pocket and begins polishing the glass. The young man, who had been in the process of gulping down his small tea, stops still, his cup and head remaining at a frozen tilt. Quivering, he places the cup on a nearby table. He then takes his chin between his index finger and thumb and slowly shakes his head, while observing Ben's actions from the corner of one eye. Ben clicks the case closed and replaces the timepiece in his waistcoat's pocket. That card. Very strange. Someone's been marketing you. In my experience in sales, there's always a cost. A signature on a dotted line, a debt created." Benjamin smiles again. "No debts. To my marketer's credit, they have never billed me, nor have I ever asked them to direct people here. Somehow people come. I don't know why. They just find their way." The conversation appears to be having a calming effect. The young man takes up his cup again and, accepting a refill, supports himself with one of the boat's inbuilt cabinets. A good Samaritan, then, living on this fantastic vessel and surrounded by, well, a real mix of things. 27 casts a quizzical eye around the kitchen area and the rest of the room. You must have made your fortune. Some may say I did. Now I'm here, mostly it's a quiet life. Occasionally it's like today. Perhaps. Please, continue your story. The guest stares down at his shoes. I hope so. I really hope so. Thinking about it, it's not all that complicated. I suppose you could just say, like many people, I woke up one day and wondered where my life had gone. Weird thing was, I didn't know I'd been asleep. From that day on, I decided to take up the reins. I soon discovered that wasn't easy. Not when you've grown used to other people doing the steering. 27 continues to mutter under his breath. His host fills the apparent silence. But you're finding your middle ground. I, for one, have always ascribed to the maxim that sharing in and of itself has the power to cut a problem in two. Benjamin's guest looks up. No wonder people come here. You feel like a wise uncle. The sort of relative I'd wish I'd had, but I never did. A ginger cat strolls through the cabin. Noticing the intruder, he hisses. 27 glares back. Platypus, that's no way to treat guests. The ginger furball scurries off, slipping on the wooden floor. Somewhere to put that bag? 27 glances towards a large, cylindrical grey holdall close to his feet. I should get going. Not fair to take up this much of your time. Nonsense, I wouldn't allow it. As I said, you're our guest. You didn't even know I was coming. Oh, really? Something of a coincidence, then, that Martha ensured your room was made up this morning. Do follow me. As the new guest follows on, he catches one of the side tables with his bag, disturbing what looks to be the initial gambits of a game of chess. Please don't worry, my cleaner is a genius when it comes to remembering exactly where everything should be. Benjamin shows the younger man to a small, spotlessly clean room towards the aft of the boat. 27 enters and sits on a small single bed. The space contains a tiny metal table with a polished cherry wood swivel stool. Benjamin pulls the stool out and spins the seat until it rises to the appropriate height. Would you mind if I left you with a couple of thoughts before I grant you sanctuary and the run of old hopes? 27 strokes at the cotton bedding. Apparently Benjamin takes this as enough of a cue to continue. I once came across a man that had what he considered to be a terrible past, violent and full of self-loathing. He pauses and stares at his guest. His new shipmate seems more concerned with taking in his surroundings than the fable. Benjamin continues. I suppose I could use the term friend to describe our relationship. Well, I thought of him in those terms, even if my sentiments were not reciprocated. Eventually he became a teacher, and if the numbers of those that follow you are deemed indication of your attainment, a successful one. He told his devotees of the horrors of his past and how those experiences drove him to find a new way, to venture inside and seek out the inner beauty he was convinced we all have. In addition, he studied the great thinkers and movements of our distant and more recent past, and was able to retain that material to an enviable degree. His experiences lent weight and authenticity to his recounting, and what's more, he undoubtedly believed he was leading those that listened to higher, to better things. 27 stares up at Benjamin, the host remaining uncomfortably perched only a couple of feet from him. Although this new attentiveness appears to be improving manners, the guest's eyes have fallen dark and vacant. What I'm trying to say is, it apparently never crossed his mind that his actions, as he saw them, both wicked and saintly, had precisely nothing to do with either a disturbed childhood or the later quest for spiritual knowledge. They were just his actions. Benjamin spins himself downwards through 720 degrees while making a childlike wee sound. Getting to his feet and without another word, he leaves the room, the door closing behind him. Moments later it shoots open again, just enough for Benjamin's ruddy face to squeeze through. 27 has begun to rummage in his holdall, but, at the sight of his host, pulls both of the sides up and over the contents. His movements have, however, afforded Benjamin the sight of tattoos on each of his guest's wrists. "There's a lavatory along here, on the right. You probably would have found it, but the captain can play tricks on visitors, especially at night. Toodle pip." Benjamin's head disappears as fast as it arrived, and the door is once again carefully pulled shut.